moment the doors slammed shut and federal agents stepped onto Snoop Dogg's property, something shifted, no, shattered, in a story that the world thought was buried with Tupac Shakur nearly 3 decades ago. Because this isn't nostalgia, this isn't history, this is a living, breathing collapse unfolding in real time. And the most chilling part is not the raid itself, it's the position Snoop is now trapped in. A position where every word he says could rewrite everything we thought we knew about loyalty, fame, and betrayal at the highest level of hip-hop.
So we made the business decision to be cool with each other. Because I don't hate him, and he don't hate me.
Even though people say it, I never came across anything where Pac was saying he wanted to make right with these guys. These individuals didn't even like Pac.
And just like that, the myth cracks open. The carefully polished image, the smiling, laid-back icon who became everyone's favorite cultural uncle, suddenly looks less like truth and more like a decades-long performance. Because if insiders are right, if the whispers that never quite died have now turned into something federal agents are acting on, then what we're watching is not an investigation starting, it's an investigation closing in. Tight, precise, unavoidable.
2 days before he died, I don't think he liked me.
Why?
Because we was in New York.
Pause there, because this is where it gets uncomfortable in a way people don't want to sit with. For 27 years, Snoop has been the symbol of survival, reinvention, loyalty to legacy. The man who stood beside Tupac's memory, who spoke about him like a brother, who carried that narrative forward in interviews, tributes, public appearances. But now, suddenly, the FBI is not treating him like a witness to history, they're treating him like a central piece of it. Not someone who watched events unfold, but someone who may have shaped them. And the detail that refuses to go away, the one that feels small but echoes louder now than ever, is that admission Snoop made himself. 2 days before Tupac died, he said he felt Tupac didn't like him. Think about that. 2 days, not months. Not years. 2 days before one of the most shocking moments in music history, and the relationship between these two icons was already fractured in a way no one fully understood. At the time, it was brushed off as tension, ego, competition. Now that same detail is being re-examined as something far more dangerous, a possible motive hiding in plain sight. And then there's Napoleon from Tupac's own circle, who for years kept saying something people didn't want to hear, that Snoop couldn't handle Tupac's rise, couldn't handle the way attention shifted, couldn't handle the shadow he suddenly found himself standing in. Back then, it sounded like bitterness, like someone holding on to old grudges. But time does something strange to claims like that. When new evidence starts aligning with old accusations, those grudges start looking more like warnings that nobody took seriously. Now imagine the scene behind closed doors. Snoop sitting across from federal agents. No cameras, no charisma, no stage, just questions, direct ones. The kind that don't leave room for clever answers. And according to insiders, this isn't a casual conversation, it's pressure, real pressure. The kind where the options are brutally simple, cooperate or be crushed by what they already have. And here's the part that should make a lot of people nervous, not just Snoop. Because when someone is pushed into that corner, they don't just talk, they unravel entire networks. Names, connections, secrets that were never supposed to leave private rooms. And that leads to the question no one can ignore anymore. If Snoop is talking, who else is about to be dragged into this? Because the FBI doesn't move like this without groundwork. They don't raid a figure this big based on rumors or speculation. Someone talked, someone flipped first. Someone already handed them something concrete enough to get a warrant signed, and that's where the paranoia creeps in.
If you look at it, they committed fraud. They committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong.
Because it means this isn't a single target operation, it's a chain reaction. One name leads to another, until suddenly the entire structure starts to shake. Look at the timeline. September 2023, Keefe D gets arrested, the first real break in 27 years. Then the quiet phase, the part where everyone thinks maybe the case stalled. But it didn't stall, it evolved, it climbed, and now it has reached Snoop. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because the investigation has been building, piece by piece, moving up levels, connecting dots that were invisible before. And then there's the detail that feels almost too surreal to be real. While all of this was allegedly building in the background, Snoop went ahead and bought Death Row Records, the very label tied to Tupac's legacy, the empire once controlled by Suge Knight. Think about the optics of that. If the FBI's version of events holds even partially true, then Snoop wasn't just living alongside Tupac's legacy, he was acquiring it. owning it, reframing it, almost like trying to control the narrative itself before it could turn against him. And then there's Suge Knight, a man many dismissed, ignored, wrote off as unreliable because of his own history. But here's the uncomfortable twist. Sometimes the loudest, most chaotic voices are the ones who were actually closest to the truth. Suge was there, in the car, in the chaos. He's been saying for years that Snoop had motives, that jealousy played a role, that things behind the scenes were not what they appeared to be. At the time, it sounded like bitterness. Now, it sounds like something people are starting to reconsider, not because Suge is trustworthy, but because parts of his story are beginning to echo in ways that can't be ignored. And what about the claims that Snoop tried to intervene in Keefe D's situation, that there were attempts to manage what was being said, to control how much information got out? Nothing confirmed, nothing officially proven, but again, this is where patterns start to matter more than isolated facts. Because when multiple threads point in the same direction, even weak ones start forming a stronger picture. Meanwhile, Snoop's public life never slowed down. The commercials, the TV appearances, the branding, the transformation into a universally loved figure. That contrast between the public image and the alleged private reality is where this story becomes explosive.
I think when you look back, look at people's careers, often they think, well, wow, that was the guy from this era, or this is the singer from that era. I feel like strangely about you is you keep having different eras and you keep showing up and kind of upping your game. Are you a guy with a game plan? Are you like, you know what, I need to work on X, Y, and Z, or do you just take what comes in front of you?
I think I'm organized confusion.
Because if the FBI is right, then this isn't just about something that happened in 1996. It's about everything that came after. Every tribute, every emotional speech, every moment where Snoop positioned himself as part of Tupac's legacy. And now, all of it is under a microscope. Because the circle around him, they knew something. Maybe not everything, but something. People noticed tension. They noticed distance. They noticed shifts that don't match the public narrative. And for years, those observations were dismissed, ignored, buried under the weight of Snoop's carefully maintained image. But now, those same observations are being re-examined, reinterpreted, pulled back into the spotlight as potential clues in something far bigger. And here's where the pressure becomes unbearable. Because this isn't just about Snoop anymore. This is about everyone connected to that era, that moment, that night. The industry that spent decades pretending certain rumors were just gossip is now facing the possibility that those rumors were fragments of something real. And if Snoop is indeed cooperating, if he's naming names, then every new name becomes a new crisis waiting to explode. Somewhere, phones are ringing, lawyers are being called, statements are being drafted, because nobody knows who he's going to mention next. And the most terrifying part? The people he names might not even know they've been named yet. And now everything slows down, not because the story is ending, but because the tension is stretching, pulling tighter with every passing second. Like something that is about to snap and send shockwaves through an entire industry that thought it had already survived its darkest chapter. Because while everyone is staring at the headlines, at the raid, at Snoop Dogg sitting somewhere behind closed doors, there is another clock ticking quietly in the background. A date that suddenly feels far more dangerous than it did before. February 9th, the trial of Keefe D. Because here's the problem no one wants to say out loud. If Snoop is truly at the center of this, if he is the one the FBI is now squeezing for information, then Keefe D is no longer the main character in this story. He becomes something else entirely, a piece on the board, a witness whose value is now shifting by the hour.
The reason we asked everyone to be here today is obviously we are the new attorneys for Dwayne Davis in the Tupac murder case, now set for trial February of next year. The reason in particular that we asked the media to be here is that, obviously we're not trying the case in the media, but we want to establish better relations with the media.
That changes everything about what happens next. Because trials don't just proceed the same way when a bigger name enters the frame. They bend, they delay, they explode into something else entirely. Think about Keefe D sitting in custody right now, watching the news, watching reports of federal agents storming a mansion tied to one of the biggest names in hip-hop history. He's doing the math. He has to be. Because if Snoop is talking, if Snoop is giving the FBI names, details, timelines, then Keefe D's leverage just dropped overnight. Why would prosecutors need him the same way if the person above him is already cooperating? That's the kind of realization that forces people into decisions they swore they would never make. And that is exactly how these situations are designed. Now shift your focus again, because there's another layer here that refuses to stay buried. The stories that were once considered too strange, too uncomfortable, too impossible to believe. Stories told by Suge Knight from prison. Stories about tension inside death row records. About fractures that were never publicly acknowledged. About moments in the hospital after the shooting that felt almost surreal in their darkness. For years, those stories were dismissed. Too dramatic, too self-serving, too convenient coming from someone with every reason to deflect blame. But here's what happens when new developments start aligning with old claims. The threshold for disbelief lowers. Things that once sounded impossible start to feel possible. Not proven, not confirmed, but no longer easy to ignore. Because Suge J was there, that's the one thing that cannot be erased. He was inside the car. He witnessed the chaos firsthand. And when someone who is present keeps repeating the same version of events for years, even when it benefits them to lie, you eventually have to ask, what if parts of it were true? And that question is what makes this entire situation so unstable. Because this isn't just about evidence, it's about narrative, about decades of accepted truths being challenged all at once, about an entire culture being forced to reconsider what it believed about one of its most iconic figures. And the people who were there, the ones who stayed silent, who watched Snoop rebuild his image, who saw him become something completely different from who he once was, they're part of this too. Their silence now looks different. It feels heavier. Because silence can mean many things: fear, loyalty, uncertainty, or complicity. And now, as everything begins to surface, that silence is starting to crack. Meanwhile, the legal system is moving in its own unpredictable way. Motions will be filed. Evidence will be challenged. Timelines will shift. Because this is not a simple case anymore, it's a web. And webs don't unravel cleanly. They tangle. They stretch. They pull in unexpected directions. The trial set for February 9th could change entirely depending on what happens in the coming months. It could be delayed, expanded, transformed into something much larger than anyone initially expected. Because if new names emerge, if new connections are confirmed, then the scope of this case doesn't just grow, it explodes. And somewhere inside all of this, there's a reality that no one wants to accept. There may not be a clean ending to this story. No clear resolution that ties everything together neatly. Because when something this big starts unraveling, it doesn't stop at one person. It moves outward, touching everything connected to it, exposing layers that were never meant to be seen. And that brings everything back to the same chilling question that started this entire collapse. What happens when Snoop runs out of names? Because that moment is coming. Sooner or later, there will be nothing left to give, nothing left to trade. And when that happens, the protection that cooperation offers begins to fade. The shield disappears, and what remains is the full weight of everything that has been uncovered, everything that has been said, everything that can now be used. There is no easy exit from that point, no smooth transition back to normal life, no return to the image that existed before. Because once the narrative breaks, once the public begins to see the cracks, it doesn't go back together the same way, ever. And somewhere out there, people are watching this unfold in real time, hoping their names never get spoken, hoping their phones stay silent, hoping that whatever Snoop is saying in that room stops just before it reaches them. Because in a story like this, the most dangerous thing isn't what has already been revealed. It's what hasn't been said yet.